Okay, I know it doesn't sound like the most interesting topic, but power banks. They're becoming increasingly important and also increasingly frequent. So I thought it's about time to make a summary list of the coolest, the most functional, and the best looking power banks towards the end of 2017 and approaching 2018. Let's get right into it. So we're going to kick things off with a company called Ravpower, who've managed to pull together their resources to produce this product, a very expensive but at the same time extremely unique power bank. For one main reason, when you press the power button, it'll start charging any device connected to the USB Type-C port or the USB Type-A port. But when you hold down the power button, this little green light is going to turn on. And you're seeing that right, that is a full-size AC adapter. So essentially any product that you could previously plug into the mains, you can now plug in to this power bank and it'll charge it at full speed. That could be anything from a vacuum cleaner to a printer to any one of your laptops. It does make a little bit of a noise when you're using this socket to charge something, but it's quite minor considering literally no other power bank does this. And what you can probably also tell is this thing has a slightly different input. Whereas most power banks will charge with micro USB or USB Type-C, this one has a 19 volt DC input. So you can charge this 20,100 mAh battery bank in about 4 hours. It also helps that it comes with this carrying pouch and a giant hard shell case, which is used to store all the cables as well as the battery bank. So it's expensive, but it's well worth it. The next product is by a company you probably haven't heard of. This is the Taurus X6 Pro, and it is undeniably a high-end power bank. And it is very, very heavy, primarily because it supports an eye-watering capacity of 30,000 mAh, which to give you some perspective can charge an iPhone 7 about 12 times over. It does also have a display up front, which gives you a battery indication. It's useful, it's better than having LEDs that give you a rough idea, but at the same time it feels like a bit of a missed opportunity. That is literally the only thing it's used for. But you're not just paying for capacity here, because this thing also supports all the latest charging standards. It's got Qualcomm's Quick Charge 3 support and something the company calls Power, which means you can charge any iPhone at twice the speed you would normally be able to using the stock charger in the box. Also, the primary USB port and the USB Type-C slot both support 3 amps of output, whereas the secondary one has a still pretty good 2.4 amps. Now, by the same company, we have this, which is a slightly less functional, but at the same time significantly more premium power bank. We've got a slightly lower capacity, but at the same time a far, far nicer finish. This is a matte black exterior and then a bronze accent on top. It also still does have the display up top, except it is actually behind the frosting on the outer casing. So in a way that looks a little bit more premium, but also it's kind of blurry to read. Now compared to the Taurus, this one has lost the USB Type-C output, but the remaining USB Type-A ports still support exactly the same charging speeds. And both of these are really versatile because they can also both charge MacBooks. So now for a bit of a different kind of product, we've got these by Chargedpower. These are very small, very compact, 5,000 mAh batteries, and they're a little bit more of a gift of a fashion accessory than perhaps the rest of them. They've got this kind of nice decal on the front and a really premium feeling matte finish. Now of course, given their size, you're going to lose out on a little bit of functionality. We do still have 4 LEDs as an indicator, but you only get 1 USB Type-A for output, and you're only getting 2.1 amps here compared to 2.4 that some of the larger battery banks supported, so slightly slower charging. Don't forget though, this is still quite a bit faster than a standard charging speed, and also it is small and light enough to fit in your pocket, so much so you could forget it's there. So that is not something you can say about most power banks. Now by the same company, we have probably my favorite one on the entire list. This is the Chargedpower Magnum Opus, and its aesthetic is completely different, as you can probably tell. Compared to the standard matte black finishes we have, this is a glossy white, but Stormtrooper aesthetic aside, it's also very, very functional. It doesn't feel particularly heavy or bulky, but it's housing a 10,000 mAh battery. It's also got 2 full-size USB ports, both of which support 2.5 amp fast charging, but it doesn't end there. Flicking it round to the front, you can see we've got a display with a battery indicator. So tapping this little button once will actually tell you what percent you're on. Pretty cool. But then doing the same button twice, and you get a torch, which is built into the front. Now to suit its slightly different aesthetic, it also comes with a different kind of pouch. And I actually prefer this to the mesh pouches you normally get with power banks. This feels, to be honest, quite a bit more premium. The next one is a classic. This is one that has been around for a while and has established itself as just generally all around one of the best power banks. This is the Anker Powercore 26800. and that probably gives you a clue as to what the actual battery capacity is. Now this thing has a couple of unique features. Whilst it doesn't particularly stand out in terms of its exterior, it's ergonomic, but at the same time kind of bland. It has no less than 3 USB ports on the front. And in total, these can support 6 amps of output. So if you're using 2 or 1 of them, you can have 3 amps per port, and if you're using all 3, you can have 2 amps per port. But notice something else on the front of this power bank. It has 2 micro USB ins, which means you can connect 2 different chargers to it at exactly the same time and charge at double the speed. So whilst it still won't be as fast as the Ruff Power at charging, you can fully charge this one in about 6.5 hours. Now I actually have a bit of a soft spot for this next one. This is a 20,000 mAh battery from Orky, and it's not the most ergonomic design. It's quite blocky, but at the same time it does have some minimalist inspiration, which I do like. It's simple, it's high capacity, it's inexpensive. As you can see, we've got 2 full-size USB outs, 2.4 amps each, and you can choose to charge it via micro USB or USB Type-C. So that's just going to depend on which phone cable you have lying around. Obviously, if it's USB Type-C, you can charge it a little bit faster. It's also got 4 LEDs on the front to give you an idea of battery percentage, and they've got this kind of creepy green color to them, which is quite unusual in this power bank arena. I actually like it. Combine that with also the provided mesh carrying pouch, and this is seriously good bang for the buck. Also by Roth Power, but at a bit of a contrast to the first one I showed you from them, we've got a 10,000 mAh battery here. And this one's a little bit more simple. It is ergonomic, but in a similar vein to the Anker Powercore, is a little bit bland. What does somewhat break it up though, is when you turn it on, it has this little blue LED. Now it does have the same capacity as the Magnum Opus, but it does this while just generally being a little bit chunkier, which is not great. But what it does have over this product is the fact that it's much cheaper. So if budget is quite a constraining factor, Ruff Power's 10,000 mAh battery makes a lot of sense. You've still, even in this small form factor, got 2 output ports at 2.4 amps each, so you can still fast charge 2 devices at once, and also a little carrying bag. So guys, I really hope you enjoyed the video. Now I didn't rate these in terms of 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th, primarily because these are all great power banks, but just for slightly different kinds of users. So depending on what fits your needs better, pick one from this list and you will be very happy. So with that being said, my name is Aaron, this is Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'm signing out.